Hi, good morning, and thank you for joining Development Services customer webinar for new online permitting for building and engineering. I appreciate you joining us and spending an hour with us this morning. We hope to have enough time to answer any of the questions you might have about our new online permitting features. My name is J.C. Thomas, Assistant Director with Development Services, and my colleague Adrian Silva is going to be joining me in about 10 minutes to show you a live demonstration in what we call our test environment. Our test system is identical to the production, except that it's not for customers, it's for us to use and develop the new tools for online permitting so that when we do roll it out publicly, that it meets all of your needs and meets all of our needs. So with that, I have about a 10-minute presentation, and then I'll turn it over to Adrian. First of all, a little background on our online permitting. So Development Services started this journey back in 2018. We launched what's called the No Plan mechanical, electrical, and plumbing permits. Those are very simple permits that were processed online starting in that first phase. We then introduced traffic and transportation permits, which also a single discipline permit with an engineering group. It helped us expedite the traffic control permits that would come through Development Services, and it gave us an opportunity to continue to expand the online permitting tools that we have. We then rolled out the residential solar PV, also something that is heavily used by our customers. We process literally several thousand electrical permits or solar PV permits every year, and it gave us, again, additional experience in that first phase of the rollout. We are preparing to launch the remainder of our ministerial and discretionary permits until COVID-19 hit, and we had to rapidly shift and introduce the tool in what we call a hybrid form. The hybrid form allowed us to use the Acela portal, which you see today if you've used our system, to upload your plans and documents and to receive your final permitted plans, but we were still using our internal project tracking system. We call it the PTS system that we built 20 years ago to actually track and document your permit. Well, that created some challenges for us, but it also provided us a safety, a lifesaver really in the middle of COVID-19, where we can continue our operations and process over 50,000 permits a year. I think without having that, even the hybrid system, it would have been very difficult for us to continue to serve customers during the COVID with all the restrictions. So, but we're very happy to move away from the hybrid system because it had some challenges, and it continues to have challenges for us and our customers, and moving to the full cloud-based permitting is really what our goal is all about. In March of this year, we introduced the standalone mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. These are not the simple ones. These are the standalone submitted projects. Our sign permits, use permits, and fire permits. Those are in the full cloud Acela. So if you're permitting those today, you're actually seeing the full experience of the cloud-based permitting and all of the tools and features. It's no longer in hybrid. And so what's coming up is the building and engineering permits. These represent about 30,000 applications per year that we receive at Development Services. So we're talking about a large category, two categories of permits that come through. And then lastly, discretionary permits. Even though they're very small in terms of the volume, they're very big projects. And so they often involve longer timeframes and a lot of documents. And so we'll be introducing that one in the fall of this year. Once we've completed that, we'll be fully cloud-based with all of our permitting, and our customers will be able to access the system, which they do today 24/7. Just to reinforce what we have coming up on July 19th, we're planning to introduce the building and engineering permits. Under the building category, it includes buildings, so that's anything that is a building or a structure that's constructed. It also includes a couple of other types of permits that we have under building called master plan. We have something also called capital improvements program. Those are the projects that are the city projects for community improvements, road improvements, could be pipelines, parks, fire stations, that sort of thing. And then we have special program projects, which are the quieter homes around the airport. In addition to that, so the building permit is the major category that most customers will use when submitting for anything from an accessory dwelling unit up to a high-rise condominium or office building downtown, and everything in between. We also have construction changes and deferred submittals. Those are two additional features of our permits that we know our customers depend on for their projects. The construction change is also going to be cloud-based. So when you receive your approval in the full cloud Acela and you come back in for construction change, there'll be a selection for that. You're also going to see the deferred submittals for fire and then for just other categories. So if you have another deferred submittal, those are additional features that our customers depend upon to complete their projects. In the engineering category, as a high level, you're going to see grading, mapping, public improvements, and public right-of-way. The final form of that, I think you'll see in our test environment when Adrian shows you, is going to be probably a little different than what you see on the screen today. But when we do the final production, you'll see the categories of the most common engineering permits. It'll have everything in there, so you can select from the engineering group. Here's a screenshot of what our online permitting portal looks like. And as you can see on the left side of the screen, you see the major categories that I just mentioned around building. So those are not there today. All those are coming in under the PTS electronic submittal selection. But on the 19th of July, you're going to see these new selections that you can make. Most common is going to be the building construction. And then as you see the rest of the non-highlighted items down below, those are already there. Those are the standalones that we introduced back in March. And then the traffic control, the PTS electronic submittal. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the grading, the right-of-way mapping. Those are the engineering permit types that'll be introduced also on the 19th of July. So what are the improvements that are coming? And this is important, and this is also where we're hoping that we get customer feedback as we introduce this, and then we continue to make refinements. Once the system goes live, we're looking at doing quarterly enhancements as long as we are using this product. Just like we did with PTS when we introduced that in the year 2000, we've continued to make enhancements to that system over the last 20 years. When you introduce a new product like this, a new application, just as you do with your smartphone, or you see with other software that maybe you use in your business or in your personal life, that there's always going to be a need for updates or enhancements. And we're going to do the same thing on our permitting because we want to make it more efficient, more user-friendly, easier for customers and for our reviewers. So what is it you're going to see hopefully immediately after the 19th is a more intuitive and easier to follow experience. That's important. What the system is also going to tell you is what documents that you need. So Adrian will show you on our website that when you go to fire permit, for example, or demolition permit, it tells you what documents that you need to submit to us for review. The system in Acela, when you go to apply for your permit, will also tell you based on the questions that you answer that you need these 3 documents or these 4 documents. You won't be able to complete your submittal until you've provided us those 3 or 4 required documents based upon the questions you answered about your own project. And that's an important feature because that's called what we used to do internally here when it was in paper, kind of a pre-screen process. Do you have your water meter data card? Do you have your building construction plan? Obviously you need that one. Those are the things that the system will help us and help you move it into review much faster and really reduce the time it takes to do the pre-screening that's required. So everything will also be in one location. You won't need to jump about to filling out forms on our website or sending requests by email to get your permit or any of the things that we've had to deal with in the hybrid system or even in the paper system before that. Everything will be in the OpenDSD Acela system. From your invoices to scheduling inspections to checking your project status and seeing your reviewer comments. We still use email communication when something significant is happening during the review. For example, you get reviewer comments, just like you do today. We send those out electronically. You're going to get those as an email back to you when those plans have been reviewed and a discipline has either signed off or has given comments about your project. No more general application. Hooray. We've had some problems with general applications, and sometimes that's a stumbling block because they don't always get filled out completely. And then that creates another delay for us in putting those into review. And so we're limiting the general app by instead having in the online experience all the information that we basically need for a general application. So it'll have your obviously your username and your contact information, and then information about your project. It'll be contained within the questions that we ask and the information you provide. And then we'll have step-by-step instructions on how to apply for a permit in the new system, and how the new system works, and how to check your status, and how to check your invoices, and how to schedule inspections. In that user guide, it will be published before we get to the 19th. We're still in the final stages of producing that. It'll be online in a PDF form, so you can download that and review it. We'll try to keep it as simple as possible and use screenshots so that you can compare and see where you are in your project application. And if you hit a stumbling block or something, you should be able to refer to that document and get the assistance that you need. But what's in there? Well, it'll have some easy tips on how to create an online account with us, how to check your PDF files, how to upload documents, resubmitting documents, final plans, paying invoices, and scheduling inspections. So some of the features about the new system, because we're no longer dealing in a paper environment, is that we have some minimum requirements for electronic files. And we had requirements for paper files too. You either used our forms, or you had building construction plans, or you had D sheets, or whatever those requirements are now in what I'm saying, the electronic world, a little different. And it's going to take time for, I think, for our customers to adapt to that and understand what, the importance of those requirements. One of which is it has to be a PDF file. The second of which is we have a limitation of 200 megabytes, which is actually a pretty good sized file. But we also know that we see building construction plans or engineering plans that can be, up to 500-600 megabytes. We'll have volumes, like you can do a volume 2, 3, 4 to help mitigate that issue. Page orientation, I'll show you a screenshot of why that's important. Adrian will talk about that as well. We want to make sure that all the pages are oriented the same way, hopefully, so that our reviewers can move quickly through and review those. Password protection. This one tends to slow us down sometimes when a customer uploads a document that has a password protection. Sometimes it happens, well, I think accidentally, where maybe a civil engineer or an architect used a stamp or a sign off, and then maybe they used Adobe Sign. They've locked the plans down. They submit it to us. The system allows you to submit it. We can't really screen out for that, but the problem is then we can't open up that file and issue our stamp. So make sure that you have the password protection off. Don't lock down those plans. Otherwise, you won't be able to get your permit. Simple as that. And then the annotations and comments, flatten your files. The simplest way to do that, even with simple forms or documents you get from another agency, is to really print it sounds simple, but print your file to PDF. Even though it may be a PDF, print it to PDF. It'll flatten it out and take out those layers. We don't need all the layers to review them. Think of it as like taking a snapshot of that document, and that it cleans it up for us so that you can upload it. And that's probably going to be the most common issue that you have. Our forms, for example, even though we're eliminating general application, we have other fillable forms. They're designed to be filled out online. You can even sign them online. You don't need to, and you could save them to your file and then upload them. You don't need to print them out and then scan them back in. Hopefully you can avoid doing that as much as possible. We designed it so that it can save you time and paper and hassle by being able to use that. So use that feature. The page orientation, again, it's in this PowerPoint so that you can download it and look at it later, but you can see, and there's also a link here to go look at page numbering and how to do it. But you can see here's the orientation, and then we've seen it where files have come in where maybe the third page that comes in is, turned from landscape to kind of a standard, and so that creates some problems for us in the review, and we want to make sure that the orientation is the same, and we're going to ask that you try to abide by that. Sheet numbering is also important. So when we're using a new software, not only is the Acela tool allowing you to submit your plans to us, but we're also using a tool for cloud-based review. Our reviewers are going to open them in what we call ePlanSoft. ePlanSoft is a cloud tool that allows us to do markups on the plans, clouds, put notes, comments, and then send those comments back to you. And then you also see where they're at in the plan. It's important to us to have the sheet numbering correct. And we ask that you have it in the bottom right-hand corner and using a very simple format. Adrian will talk about that too, but here's an example where it can be like a D1 or a D2. The numbers at the bottom are going to cause some problems for us. And so there's no hard and fast imposed rule about this, but we're going to ask that you try to comply with this requirement because it's really going to help us expedite the review, especially for larger plan sets that come in. When you look at updating your own templates and trying to simplify your numbering system to help us. We respect that you have many other agencies that you may be processing permits with. And so we're trying to work with you and be as patient as possible, but also that we ask that you try to simplify your numbering system as best you can when you go to submit your plans with us. And with that, this is the screen where I'm going to turn it over to Adrian, who's going to give you the live demonstration. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and he's going to take you to our webpage first and show you a couple of things on our webpage, and then take you right into the portal and actually apply for a building permit today and show you some of the features about it. You ready, Adrian?
Hey, JC,
yes, thank you, JC.
I have a couple of questions. Sorry, Adrian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, from Chris, will all permits that are currently in process review be migrated to the new system after July 19th?
Yes, but it won't be immediate. It's going to take us some time to migrate those. So if you started in paper or you started in the hybrid electronic using the PTS, you'll continue that until it'll probably be at least 3 months before we have an opportunity to migrate those over.
Okay, the next question, I think this is for Adrian. Would a standby generator be considered a discretionary project or building project? The project includes structural, electrical, mechanical, downtown review, TA, and fire.
Yes, that would be a building project.
Okay. Then I think this one's for you, JC. Adrian, if you, Chipres, if you want to say something, I'm not sure about the question, but it says Bluebeam Studio question mark. So if you want to unmute yourself, please.
Hi, yeah, no, it was more of a comment that Bluebeam Studio, I believe, no, I know has all the capacities that we were talking about. So I didn't know if that's what we were using or not, but I heard we're using a different platform.
Yeah, we're using ePlanSoft as the tool choice.
That's cool.
All right. Anything else, Scott?
Yeah, a couple more questions from Elton. It says, for sites that are currently in review, would we need to reformat these drawings, or could we continue and start this with new submittals regarding page number formats or similar?
So it's all new submittals after July 19th.
Okay.
So if you're in a current review, stay with your current process, and then if you're going to the new, go with the new process.
Okay, regarding this from Clover or C. Lober, regarding the select a record type menu, will each selection have a brief description? Many customers get confused with selecting services as some sound similar, such as deferred and construction change projects. Providing a note cursor activated, such as the card verification value found on the back of the credit card.
Yeah, so all that information is on our website, and then there are some limitations of what we can actually populate. We can do a little question mark within the Acela system, and so we'll look at adding some descriptors on that. Anything else, Scott, before we go to the live demo?
That's it.
All right, so Adrian, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, JC.
All right.
Let me begin sharing my screen. Okay. Is everybody able to see the DSD website?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. Like Scott said, I'm Adrian Silva. I'm one of the life safety plan reviewers on here in the DSD. I review fire alarm plans, fire protection plans, things like that. But I'm also one of the ambassadors that's helping with this transition. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk you through the process of applying for a permit. Okay, so where we start is here at our main development services webpage, our home page. And right here near the top, there's a yellow button that says apply for a permit now. That's where we would begin. So that's where I'm going to start. And this takes you to our permits and approval page, and it gives you some good information about the process. If you keep scrolling down, you're going to see all the different permit types that development services processes. Okay. You will select the permit type that you are interested in applying for. Usually it will be a building permit, or you're doing alternate methods and materials, construction changes. It tells you a little bit about each of the permits. And I just want to say that these pages, some of them are going to change because of the new process to reflect the new changes that are coming up. So I'm going to pick one that we've already transitioned over, which is fire permits. That one's already kind of been already set up. So I'm going to select fire permit. This takes you to our fire permit page, and it gives you some information on what the fire permits are. When you're planning your project, some information that you need to know, the types of permits that you can pick and what each permit is for, the fees, any exemptions from a permit, all that information is here before you apply. Then there is the apply for the permit button. It links you to the user guide, fee worksheet again. You're going to be asked for eventually for the project contact information form. So that's here for you. And this here, step 3, is one of the steps that I think is very important that you want to try before you actually submit a project. And this is what Scott was talking about, is that files are validated. I guess they're checked for certain criteria before they're allowed to be submitted into the system. And I'll show you an example of that when I'm submitting. So what we recommend you do is click this link first, and it takes you toward the Scout webpage. You can run your plans through there to see if they're going to pass. And if it doesn't pass, you'll get an error telling you why it's not passing. And then you can make those changes so that when you actually do come back and apply for the permit, it'll just be a smooth process. So we recommend that you do that first, that you run your files through Scout before you submit. And then there's the apply for the permit button, which I'm going to click in a minute. But down below here, we also have additional resources that has all information bulletins that apply to fire permits. Every page has the same thing, bulletins that apply for that particular permit. So this is just some more information for people before they apply. So now I'm ready to apply for the permit. I will click this blue button that says apply for a permit. I'm just going to pretend I clicked it because I need to jump onto the test environment. So I'm going to click that button, and then it's going to take me to the login page for what we call ACA. It's the customer account, the Acela customer access. I'm going to log in. If you're not currently a user, you can click here and register for an account. So this is your home page for your account. As you can see, you can do collections here, and these are just, you can create little groups of projects that you want to group together and you want to keep track of. You can start collections and things like that. But to apply for a permit, you would go to DSD permits. And there's this link here that says create an application. If you see where my cursor is flashing right now, that is where you will go to create application. Just down here, you will see the list of records of applications and permits that you've already created. You'll see those here. You'll see the status. We'll go more into that after I've created a record. But for now, I'm going to create an application. This takes you to a general disclaimer page. You just have to, once you read it and you agree to it and accepted the terms, you check the box and you continue to the application. And this is that page that JC showed you where you get to select what you want to apply for, all the different permit types that we issue. I'm just going to select the general building construction. Yes. And so what you're going to see next is a series of pages that do a couple of things. One, these series of pages and questions that you're going to see, they're going to take the place of the general application. The other thing that it's doing, it's going to ask you a series of questions that's going to determine what are going to be the required documents that you need to submit. So that's what the next series of pages is going to be. So the first question is going to be address. Is you have an address for the site? For some people, it seems kind of a silly question, but we do issue permits for empty lots that don't have addresses yet, that only have parcel numbers. So that's the first question that you have to. So if you hit yes, you can continue the application. And it takes you to the address page. I'm just going to select our building here. One of the things to take note, you see this tip here. If you have a street that has a number, like for example, First Avenue, the way that the system wants you to enter it is 01, okay? 01, and this is one of those cases where less is more. If you start adding more information, it's going to look for that exact information and it might not find what you're seeing. So in this case, for 1222 First Avenue, if I just select 122201, it'll come up. If I would have put 1222 First like street, because I didn't know it was avenue, then it won't find it. So it's one of those things where less is more. That's just a tip. You search. It has found it. You can notice here, and it has populated all the information for parcel number, the legal description. And then if you keep scrolling down here is, it's not required information. Required information, you'll see a little asterisk next to it, but this is any other information that you want to provide regarding the site. So for example, does this site also include any associated adjacent parcels that are also going to be part of the development? Or right here, you can also, if you're doing a tenant improvement to a building, on this field over here, you will list like the suite number or the building number that you're going to be applying for. Okay, so once we get that, we will hit continue application. We have a code enforcement case validation question. If you have a code enforcement case for the site, if you hit yes, it's going to bring in more questions. A code enforcement case number. Does this particular application, is it related to that violation? Is this application intended to resolve that violation? So you would answer those questions here. And that would just let our setup staff know that this project would need to get routed to code enforcement for review. In this case, for the sake of proceeding, I'm going to hit no. Also, I think this would be a good place to note that if at any time you want to go back to a previous page, you would go up to this, this bar here, this tabs that I'm showing. If I want to go back and change the address, I notice that I may have entered the wrong address. You can just click back on one of these and it'll take you back to that page. So up here is where you would navigate. Okay. The greens one are the ones that you've already completed, and the yellow ones are the ones that are currently in process. Okay. So step 3 would be the scope and the timeline that you're requesting for your project. So here you would define the scope of work of what you're proposing to do. So I'm just going to do like office TI. Okay. You can be a little bit more descriptive, but I'm just going to use this. Select what kind of applicant are you? Are you the owner or are you an authorized agent? So this, we just want to determine whether it is an owner builder type application. Usually if you're a contractor, architect, or a permit expediter or something like that, you would choose authorized agent.
Adrian, one quick question. I'm going to go out of order because it makes sense to ask a question here before we go further. It says, per address information project location tab, what should be done if there's a project site which covers multiple addresses or APNs?
Okay, so what you would do is you would choose usually like the base address, the lowest address on the site. Okay, you would enter that address as the main address, and then you scroll down. Let me see if I can go back to that page. Delete this page. Okay, so you would put that first main address or the base address, I guess I could call it here, and select. And when you scroll down, this is where you would enter any of those additional parcels or addresses that are associated to the site in this field here. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. For Adrian Chiperes and C. Cabral, we're going to ask your questions after Adrian Silva finishes his presentation. Okay, go ahead, Adrian. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's continue. But you see how I was able to jump back to a previous page that I already completed? That was pretty good. All right, so, but you have to go back. So when you go back, then you just have to go through each of the pages that you went through to get to where you were. So I'm just gonna go back to code enforcement case. Okay, back to the scope of work. So I was doing an office TI. Right. Okay, the applicant type, I'm an authorized agent. Processing timeline. This is where you're going to request if it's going to be standard, express, or expedite. Okay. I just want to say that just because you request express, it may not mean that it can be granted. It could be that at a time when we have, based on the workload that we have, that the express, we're not taking in express, all that would be posted on our website. But it's rare that that happens, but sometimes we get such a huge workload that we're not able to accommodate express, and the building official will say we can't do express at the moment. Very rare, but this is, I'm just telling you that it may happen, that this is just you're requesting express. Okay, it's not that you're going to be guaranteed express. In most cases, if you request express, you'll get it. Expedite also, those are certain projects only qualify for expedite, usually like the affordable housing type projects. So if you select expedite and you don't qualify for expedite, setup staff will not set up expedite. So most projects will go to the standard. Okay. In this sheet, this page here, you see this is not a required field. It doesn't have the asterisk, but this is where you would provide any associated discretionary approvals. Like, for example, if there's any coastal development permits, any plan development permits, things like that. Those would be listed here. Continue. Now we get to the permit specific requirements. These are the questions that are going to help setup staff determine what type of approval to set up, and also like what documents we're going to require. So the first question that it's asking here is this the application for a no plan building permit? Okay, if you're just doing like a simple re-roof or some window replacement for a single family home that doesn't require, or a window replacement for a multifamily dwelling that requires a permit but may not necessarily require plans, this is what this is asking for. So information bulletin 203 covers all the things that qualify for a no plan permit. So here you're asked answer the question. If you say yes, it's actually gonna give you, let me hit yes. And it asks you for the no plan building permit supplemental application form. Okay, that's the only document that is required. Okay, let me actually go back so I can hit no. Go through the process. So in this case, I'm going to hit no. And then here's where it tells me, do I want a building permit or a combination building permit? Okay. On the previous permit pages that I showed you on our website, it explains what requires building permits and what requires combination permits. Essentially, building permits are for commercial, multifamily developments, and combination permits are for your single family and duplex. Okay. I'm going to set building permit. And I want to mention that when you answer these questions, sometimes you got to give it a little time because, for example, when you hit yes, you have to wait for like a supplemental question to pop up. Sometimes it takes a little time to load. So try to kind of at first do it slowly. Don't click too fast because you kind of need to wait for that supplemental question to load.
Hey, Adrian, one quick question as you go.
Yes.
What is the difference between an express and expedite question?
I know that in Express, it shortens the turnaround time for plan review. Okay, it's usually half of the normal turnaround time, and it's an extra fee. Usually, it's half of the plan check fee that is charged for Express. Expedite, I'm not sure there's anybody from Submittal here that can help with that, but Expedite it's a process that also shortens the turnaround time. I don't believe there's an extra fee for that, but only certain types of projects.
That's right. And there is an information bulletin on our website that you can access and see what projects would qualify for the expedite.
Yeah.
Typically affordable housing.
Yeah. Usually it's affordable housing projects.
And the promise zone.
This is Elise Lowe, the director. Thanks, everyone. The expedite program is for discretionary projects for sustainable and affordable housing. The express program is for ministerial projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's continue the application. Okay, so if you guys remember our paper application up at the top, it had a little section where you could check the permit types that you're applying for. This is what this is. So if your building permit also includes an electrical permit, you would check that. If it includes mechanical, plumbing, these are the typical permits. If you decide not to defer your fire permits, which is usually the case, but if you want to include them at this time, you can also include them at this time. So you can check all those permits also. If you don't, if it's just a one single building permit with no associated MEP permits or fire permits, you would just have to select no additional permits. This page requires you to select one. So that's why we have this no additional permits one. In this case, I could select mechanical and plumbing. This is a typical. And this is where we get to the questions that help determine what documents we're going to need. So you're going to select your submittal type. This may change a little bit, but right now, if you have requesting an actively managed project, I will tell you for actively managed projects, usually you've already would have made contact with one of our development project managers, and they would already have given you approval for this to be an actively managed project. Okay. It's kind of like if you don't know what actively managed means, it doesn't apply to you. It's kind of that, okay? So if you already have that approval from a development services development project manager to be actively managed, you will already know, okay?
Adrian, this is Elise Lowe again.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I just like to quickly interrupt and say that for many years, the city only actively managed the discretionary projects. As we found, the larger, more complicated projects needed active ministerial project management in order to help them be more coordinated, just due to the complexity of, massive projects. Now, based on feedback from the mayor, and with our new Small Business Express program, in addition to ministerial active management for those large, complicated projects, Building Construction and Safety Division now has dedicated staff to actively managing small projects that qualify for our Small Business Express program. So I just wanted to make that clarification because we don't actively manage all ministerial projects. There's simply too many of them. They're system managed. However, in order for us to facilitate City of San Diego economic recovery during this pandemic, we are trying to especially help small businesses, mainly restaurants, but businesses under 25 people with active management of specific projects. So thank you.
Thank you, Elise. So when you select the actively managed, you get some questions here. If is it a permit now project per our bulletin 195? Have you received previous approval previously from a DSD staff to get actively managed? This is that question I was talking about. And then you have to provide who that staff member was that gave you that approval for actively managed. Okay. Mostly all of the projects, general would be what you select. As you can see, no supplemental question for that. And then we also have the rapid review option. And rapid review is what has taken the place of our over-the-counter projects when we used to have services over the counter for like small TIs and small additions. That's what rapid review is. And the questions, the supplemental questions that pop up when you select rapid review help you determine whether or not your project applies or complies with the rapid review rules. Okay. We go back to general. That's just a general building submission. Continue. And these questions here are going to help us determine what we need to ask for, what documents. Is there a discretionary permit currently in process? And all these questions need to be answered yes or no. You can't leave any blank. So hit no for that one. Will the project include new plumbing fixtures, or in this case, commercial? Is the project room plumbing fixtures? I'm going to hit yes because I want it to trigger the water meter data card for me. Okay. Does it include structural calculations? I'm going to say no. Trust calculations. No. If you answer yes to any of these, then we're going to require that document. Okay. Let's move forward. We get to our historic designation question. Does it contain a designated resource, or is it in a historic district? If you hit no, supplemental questions come up. You have to indicate the year of that the structures on the site were constructed. And then you have to answer this question whether or not there's any buildings or structures that are over 45 years old or older. So I'm just going to do it. Let me show you first what happens if you select yes. If you select yes, you just have to provide here. It says provide the HRB number. You could provide the HRB number, or if it's just in a district that doesn't have an HRB associated number, then you would put the district name here. So either provide the designation number or the district. Back to no. 20, hit no, and continue application. If you were to hit yes on some of these, then the requirements for the assessor's building record and the photographic survey would be generated. And here is the page where you have to submit the required documents. So based on the questions, how you answer the questions, these are the documents that are required. So building construction plans, the hazardous materials form, always required for all building permits. The stormwater requirements applicability checklist, always required. So that's all two forms you're always going to see when you do building construction plans. And then this one, the water meter data card, because I answered yes to the plumbing fixture questions. So I'm going to start by just submitting some plans. To get going. And as you see when I submit, what it's doing right now, it's going through our scout validation process. Okay, it's yellow, just hold on, let it do its thing. And it tells me, it gives me a green that says it was successfully uploaded. Okay. The next one. Again, going through a Scout validation process. Successful. Do one more. Now let me show you what happens when you get a bad document, or what Scout considers to be a bad document. Well, you get this big red error message. Okay, so what this is telling you that this document has some metadata issues with it. So there is something on the document. Usually you get, depending on what was the error, it tells you what it is. And then this one is it's metadata that's embedded within the PDF document that's causing the form to fail. So again, we recommend that you run all your documents that you plan on submitting through Scout with that link that I showed you beforehand, to make sure that when you get to this step, that your documents get in nice and clean. So now let me put in a good one. All right, that one was good. So we continue our application. And now it takes you to the page if you see additional documents. This is if you want to give us anything that we're not requiring, if there's anything that you feel that we need extra to perform our billing review, then you have the option to give us those extra documents that you feel that we need. So you would hit add. You would select the attachment that you want to add. And then you, from this drop-down menu, you would select what it is that you're giving us. So in this case, maybe you want to give us, a smoke control report for RTI, and you can put a little description of what it is. And it runs that document through Scout as well. And here's the list of all the documents that are currently uploaded. And we hit continue. And here is our declaration page that was on our general application. It's essentially the workers' compensation declaration page. If you hit this little help question mark, it tells you, it gives the entire section that you would have seen in our general application. We were limited to as how many characters we can put on this page. So we put the entire section in this little help text here. If you are not the contractor or a contractor has not been selected, you're either the architect or someone else that's submitting this application, you can check to be determined at permit issuance. Then at that time, permit issuance staff will make sure that this gets addressed. In the application. Now this is the review page. This is the final page before you submit. Here's where you get to go back and see what you answered for every single question and everything that you entered. You can go back and look at each specific section, make sure you got everything right, double check everything, make sure I asked for the right permits, I answered the right questions. Once you see that everything's good to go, if you're not quite ready to submit yet, you can hit save and resume later. Or if you're ready, you can check the box and hit continue application. It's processing. There we go. I was crossing my fingers. So this is your confirmation page. It tells you that your application has been submitted. You will get an email telling you that it's been submitted. Here is your record number. Okay. And I know that we are running short on time, but I just wanted to show you, and I want to leave time for some questions. And I would just wanted to show you some real quick things that are important for your account real quick. So if you go back to let's go back to home. Some of the things that you can see in your account real quick. Go to my records. This is what I said I was going to get back to. When you see your records, you're going to see all the different record types or records that you've applied for, permits, construction changes, project numbers, and you could see here the status, whether they've been issued. This one's in recheck required status. This one was just opened. The ones that say open that haven't finished. These are the permits that are just in open status that haven't been issued. When the project is in queue, that means I just submitted that and it's waiting to get processed. So this will tell you the status of your projects. If you click on an individual project, you get to this page with general information. One of the pages that we go mostly to is the attachments. The attachments page will show you all the documents that have been uploaded for that project here. You also, if you go to this approved or reviewer issues tab, this is where you're going to see, in this case, this permit has already been issued. So I will see, this is where you will see the issued plans, the ones that have our stamp. You can download them here. You also see, this is also the section where you're going to see all the reviewer issues reports, and you're only going to be seeing the most recent reports here. Okay, as you go through review cycles and reviewers issue new reports, they're going to keep replacing the old ones. I do want to make a note that this doesn't necessarily mean these are pending issues. Okay, this is just the most recent report. When all the issues are cleared, we don't go in and delete the issues report. Okay, so this is just the most recent report that was issued for a particular review discipline. It's not necessarily telling you that the issues already been cleared. Like if that discipline already signed off, you'll still see their issues report here. What you want to do to check the status of a review, if you go to record info, and you go to like record details, will give you details of the record, mostly the things that you entered in your application information. Processing statuses will tell you the status of the project. So this here, you're going to see this project only had one review, and it told you that it was signed off on this date and ready for stamping on this date. I want to make note to you guys that these are the two probably sign off that you're most interested in. Signed off is that first sign off when all the reviewers review the plans and they sign off when they have no more issues. Then we have that final version phase, because different reviewers signed off at different times. So they all have to see the final version to make sure that they're still okay with it. And at that point, if they're okay with it, they'll hit ready for stamping. What you may see on some projects, if there's only one reviewer, they'll skip that sign off phase because there's no reason to do a final version, because that is the final version. So they'll go straight for ready for stamping. That's how you'll know that the project has been approved by the reviewer. And then it went through the issuance phase, and this one actually already got issued. Okay. You can also here under record info, if you want to go to the to a permit record, not a PIJ. So if I go to a permit record, one that says PMT, again, go to record info, and then here under inspections, that's where you can schedule your inspections. Okay. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. So if there's any questions.
There are a lot of questions, so I'm just going to go down a couple of the more significant ones. How do we check for plan check comment signed off discipline permit status? Will we have a PTS number to check on OpenDSD?
In OpenDSD? Is that the question, or on these new Excel projects?
Yes, Miguel Labarca, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. Normally, we submit the digital drawings through Excel, but then, at least from my experience, I go to OpenDSD with a PTS number and I check for plan check comments and sign off disciplines. Is that still the case? Are we going to get a PTS number to still go through OpenDSD, or OpenDSD is going to disappear?
Yes. Oh, well, you're no longer going to be getting any PTS numbers. They're all now going to be PRJ numbers. And so you're going to be going to where I showed you in that attachments page. And there's going to be one of those links where I showed you that you're going to see your reviewer issues.
Understood.
Yep.
Miguel, do you want to ask your other question about the DS560 stormwater?
Yeah, that's a simple question. Normally, we provide a DS560 on drawings. That was the requirement from DSD originally. Are we still having to do that, or now because we submit the DS560 through the Excel portal, we don't have to have those forms on the drawings by themselves?
Yeah, they're currently still required to be included and scanned onto your documents. If we do change that requirement, we'll definitely put it out in our notice and put it on our website. But currently, the program will continue that you scan them into your construction set.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And Scott, I think to wrap it up, we still have a couple minutes left. I'll see if I can take on if there's any more questions. So here's one from Sarah. How long will the processing time be with the new system for submittal and issuance? Well, the submittal and issuance timeframes should be expedited because of the pre-screening that's done with what you saw in the demonstration by Adrian. But it also depends upon the volume. So if we see a heavy volume, then it could increase the time at which we are able to put them into review. But if all of the features that you saw today are successful, which we think they will be, it'll reduce the amount of back and forth that we've experienced during the hybrid and the queue times that you see currently during the hybrid system. See, the biggest challenge we've had during hybrid and because of COVID is that customers were able to submit pretty much whatever they wanted to, whether it met our minimum requirements or not. And so we cannot put a project into review unless it met at least our minimum standard. Otherwise, the review can't be even initiated. So we believe that the full cloud-based permitting, all the features you saw today will hopefully streamline that for the customer and for us. Let's see. Here's a question from Dustin that had to do with document types. Document types, and Adrian, you could probably address this, and so could I. Here's an example. Do you still have to compile the additional project reference material and put it together under a single reference material header? Or do you have two documents for two addresses on a site, say building records? Do you have to consolidate those? Adrian, do you want to take that one on? You want me to do that?
I could do that.
Okay.
And then maybe if you can add more, if I can. Yes, currently the system does have that limitation where it only allows one of each document type. So if you have, for example, the common one is applicant response to issues, you would have to consolidate all your responses for all your disciplines into one document type. And I think reference material is actually not available to choose anymore. But yeah, if you have more than one document, you have to consolidate it into the one.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, like for historic, for example, staff is going to look at the one document. It's easier for them to open one PDF that has, you know, 2 or 3 components to it than it is to open 3 different documents. So consolidating is always going to be faster for us. Here's a question from Andy. This is a good question. Will we receive reviewer contact information to directly reach out if a comment is unclear? Absolutely. So just as you do today in our OpenDSD and our PTS system, you get the reviewer comments. It has the name or email and phone number. Our new format will have the same thing. It'll have the reviewer's name, it'll have their email, and it'll have their phone number so that you can reach out to them for any clarification. I'm going to see if there's any other questions. I think there's one question about historic districts and whether or not there's a map available. I have something better than that. And to answer, I'm sure there is a map available of all our historic districts in San Diego because of how important that is. But we have a tool on our website called ZAP. It's under zoning and parcel information. And you can actually put in an address or even an APN and look up that property and see if it's in a historic district. It gives you about 70 different layers of zoning information that previously you had to come into DSD. It was on our GIS system, and you had to sit down with somebody and get a project information zoning checklist. Now you can do it online from our website. So I'd encourage you to use that tool. It's GIS based. It taps into, like I said, about 70 layers of GIS data, anything from historic districts to land use zonings, to flood zones, airport overlay, all of those things. So definitely use that tool. And here's another one. We'll wrap it up with this from Tom. Will we be notified when comments are ready? You're actually, when the comments are published by the reviewer, they're sent in real time to the customer. And so you'll get them by email when those comments are ready, no matter what time. I'm going to ask one question. We're 2 minutes over time, but is there anyone that wants to raise a hand and ask a question from our customers, from the public? You may do so. Scott, are you seeing any hands?
No, there was a question from C. Cabral about his, I don't believe, maybe if he can raise his hand, or he or she, or unmute themselves.
Hi, good morning. So the last training I was told to submit a commercial rooftop PV application under building construction, but my application was kicked back saying it could be submitted under electrical plans with electrical permit with plans. That option, like as worded, is that statement as worded is not an option to choose from. Which one would I be choosing in its place?
Sure, Adrian, you want to take that? Did you hear that question okay?
I did, but I think we're gonna need a little bit more information. So if she can maybe email one of us to get more information on this particular project. So we know.
What's the direct email that I could use? Because I've emailed several times and
Okay.
I'm not getting the clear answer.
Cabral, if you could just text me your information and I'll follow up and address that question for you.
Yeah, we need a little bit more information so we can determine where you need to be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, to wrap up our webinar today, I want to thank you all for joining us for this last hour and learning about our new, you saw the building permit demonstration. Just a couple of infomercials for you. Number one is we have virtual counter services now available for asking questions. You get a free 30-minute, in most cases, a 30-minute appointment for ADU, signs and zones, downtown planning and zoning, engineering, historic, first contact assistance, landscape, no plan permit and resubmittals. Those are, if we reach out to you about those, we'd encourage you to take us up on the resubmittal appointments. Those are currently being used for our PTS hybrid system, but you'll see us continue to expand that. Planning and zoning, records review in person. That's an in-person appointment to come and see building records and traffic control and safety. So they're on our website. You can see and select the time that's convenient for you. It's all integrated with Microsoft Teams, which is the tool of choice at the City of San Diego. And then you can have a 30-minute session with an expert. There's no fee associated with that. And it's not the same level as what you would get with a preliminary review where you actually do pay a fee. And I would encourage you, if you need a preliminary review, to please take us up on that as well. And then lastly, we have additional webinars planned. You'll see we have them on Thursday, the 15th of July and on the 22nd. The next one will be more tailored to the engineering permit. And then on the July 22nd, you'll see both building and engineering permits live demonstration. And we're working on adding one more to round off the month of July. And that one will be focused on our permit information, permit data analytics, how to pull record information from our system so that you can see what's happening in the industry within the City of San Diego with building construction. So, and look up record information and self-help as much as possible. And with that, I'm going to conclude today's webinar. I want to thank everybody for joining us and spending the time. My contact information is in the slide deck. You can reach out to me. If I can't answer your question, I'm definitely going to get the experts within our department. We have many experts in many different disciplines to be able to address your questions. And have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.